how many of you know if you had your life to live over again? And I've been dealing with that. I'm 72. I'm a 21-year prostate cancer conqueror because of God's grace and mercy. And trust me, it's better to be seen than to be viewed. But I want to ask you, how many of you know if you had your life to live over again, you could have done more than what you've done thus far? Raise your hands, please. Now, that proves a point that what we do and what we accomplish in life is only a tip of the iceberg of what's possible for us. So I want you to think about some major goals that you'd like to achieve in 3 different areas. Number 1, some personal goal. What's a personal goal that you'd like to achieve? I want you to think about that. My first personal goal was to buy my mother a home. That's Mrs. Mamie Brown. And she adopted my twin brother, Wesley, and I. Which one am I, on the left or the right? I'm the cute one, all right? I'm on your left. She adopted us and 5 other children. She only had a 3rd grade education, and I was determined I was going to take care of her, to buy her home. She worked for wealthy families on Miami Beach. She cooked for them, and we ate the food left over from the families that she cooked for. She kept her children, and we wore the hand-me-down clothes of the children that she kept. And I remember walking around these big, beautiful mansions on Miami Beach saying, "Mama," and she said, "What is it, Leslie?" I said, "When I become a man, I'm going to buy you a big, beautiful home just like this." And she said, "Oh, you don't have to do that." I said, "I know, but I want to." How many have somebody special you'd like to do something for? Raise your hands, please. Let me share with you how you do that. And now I want you to think about your financial freedom number. What is that number that once you achieve that, you become debt-free? It's a good feeling. Once you achieve that, alleviate a lot of stress in your life. Once you achieve that, you'll be able to do things for your family members and friends. What is that? You know, people say money won't make you happy, but everybody want to find out for themselves. Friend of mine, Rita Davenport, said money ain't important, but it's right up there with oxygen. And let me tell you something, fellas, even if you're as homeless as I am, you got some money, women will find something cute on you. Oh, he's got earlobes like Denzel Washington, honey. Eyelashes like Tom Cruise. I used to be so broke I walked past a bank and tripped the alarm. Creditors call the house, my children would answer the phone and say, "My daddy ain't home." I have my children lying on the phone. Oh my God, that's a trip. Poverty sucks. At this stage of my life, I want to give as many people hope as possible. I want you to take your phone out. And I want you to videotape me live on your Facebook. I want as many people to see this message as possible. I believe we live in the greatest country in the world. And there's something wrong in this country when more people committed suicide last year than died in traffic accidents. In this country where people try and outswim sharks to get here. In this country where people try and outrun Jeeps barefooted to get here. There's something wrong. And I believe that a lot of people have just lost hope. Hope. And this, I don't care what anyone says, America has never stopped being great. We're the greatest country on the planet, bar none. So I want you to think about your financial freedom number, and whatever that number is, and listen to me closely, I want you to multiply it 100 times. Multiply it 100 times. And don't ask yourself how you're going to do it. How you're going to do it is none of your business. My favorite book says, "Lean not unto thine own understanding, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path." You have a power and a presence in you that can do more than you can ever begin to imagine. I'm telling you this based upon my own experience. No one could have told me, based upon my experience, born in an abandoned building on a floor in a poor section of Miami, Florida called Liberty City. No one could have told me being adopted, and when I was in 5th grade, I was labeled educable, mentally retarded, and put back from the 5th grade to the 4th grade, and failed again when I was in the 8th grade. No one could have told me with no college training I would be doing what I'm doing now. And I didn't do it, I'm embarrassed to say, for 14 years. Because I talked myself out of it. But I remember something, it's a book, it's the most exhaustive study on self-esteem, learned optimism. And in there they said that we develop permanent personality characteristics between the ages of 0 and 5. 0 and 5. There's a voice in your heart that says yes or says no. You know, we've been taught forgetting those things which are behind. How many of you know that we might be through with our past, but our past is not through with us? Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. How many of you realize there are things that we have experienced that's affecting us, and many times we don't even know? Raise your hand if you understand what I'm saying. And so how people live their lives, I've come to know, is a result of the story they believe about themselves. And so when I was labeled educable mentally retarded, I'll never forget a man who interrupted my story. I eulogized him last year. Mr. Leroy Washington, I stepped in his classroom looking for MacArthur Stevens. He said, "Young man, go to the board and work this problem out for me." I said, "Sir, I'm not one of your students. I'm just here looking for MacArthur." He said, "Go to the board and work the problem out anyhow." I said, "I can't, sir." And the other students started laughing, saying, "He's Leslie. He's got a twin brother, Wesley. Wesley's smart. He's DT. What's DT? He's the dumb twin." And I said, "I am, sir." And he came from behind his desk and he looked at me. He said, "Don't you ever say that again. Someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality." And that was a turning point in my life. On one hand, I was humiliated. But on the other hand, I was liberated. Because he looked at me with the eyes of Goethe, who said, "Look at a man the way that he is, he only becomes worse. But look at him as if he were what he could be, then he becomes what he should be." And so as you look at yourself and look at your goals and your dreams, I want you to think about your personal goal, your financial goal, and I want you to think about your social contribution. What will be different because you showed up? How many of you want to build a legacy? Raise your hands, please. I was watching an interview on the OWN channel, and Steve Harvey was being interviewed. He said something that really impacted me. He said a friend of his invited him to go to the hospital with him to visit his grandmother in the hospital. And he overheard her ask him, she said, "Do you know what your great-grandfather's name is?" Now, the reason that has value for me, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, and I'm a great-grandfather, 3 sons. And he said, "No, I don't know what my great-grandfather's name is." And she said, "Because he didn't leave you anything. If he had left you something, you would know what his name was." And so I'm determined, and I'm sure some of you identify with me, that my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, because of how I live my life, that they will know my name. How many of you can identify with that? Raise your hands, please. As you think about your goals and dreams, think about your social contribution. What will be different because you showed up? In my case, I train speakers. I train people how to tell their story, how to make an impact, how to earn a living, how to begin to become a voice of influence. What will your social contribution be? I'm going to do a training this year called "You're More Powerful Than Cancer." What will yours be? Think about what yours will be. Horace Mann said we should be ashamed to die until we have made some major contribution to humankind. As you think about your goals and dreams, let us say together with conviction, it's possible. Say it again, everybody together over here, please. It's possible. I was living a mediocre life, and a friend of mine, Mike Williams, he had tremendous impact on me because I was living out of my past. And Mike interrupted my story. And he said, "Hey, Brownie." And I said, "What?" He said, "You know why you go see Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and all those guys?" I said, "No, because, I like what they say." He said, No, because that's you." I said, "But Mike, I could never do that. Man, I don't have a college education. I never worked for a major corporation. How can I compete with people with MBAs and PhDs and college credentials I don't have? How many of you have ever had someone see something in you that you didn't see in yourself? Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and so I didn't see that because based upon my past, I was living out of my history as opposed to my imagination. I want you to think about yourself where you are right now, and let us say together, it's possible. And I'm going to share some tools with you how you can begin to grow that, because one of the easiest things I've ever done was to earn $1 million. That was easy. But the most difficult thing I've ever done, and took years to do, was to believe that I can do it. That I can do it. If my birth parents came in here now, I would not know either one. That I can do it. Raised in poverty, that I can do it. Being labeled educable, mentally retarded, and failing twice in school, and being called DT, the dumb twin. I had no clue. And let me say something to you, and I don't know you, but I can tell you based upon my own experience, you have greatness in you. You have the ability to do more than you can ever begin to imagine. Dr. Howard Thurman, come forth, please, sir. He was a mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Albert Schweitzer and Mahatma Gandhi. He said, there's something in each and every one of you that waits and listens to the voice of the genuine in yourself. And it will be perhaps the only guide you will ever have. And if you cannot hear it all of your life, your days will be spent on the ends of strings that somebody else pulls. And I submit to you that you showed up here today because you've decided to pull your own strings. I submit to you that you have decided in your heart of hearts to live a bigger life. I submit to you that in your heart of hearts, you know you have greatness in you and the best is yet to come. Give yourselves a round of applause. Come on, bring your energy level up. Bring it up. Bring it up. Let us say together, it's necessary. Yes, it's necessary that you have a strategy to work on your mind on a regular basis. We're taught, be ye not conformed to this world, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that takes focus and that takes discipline. I'm encouraging you to go to YouTube after you leave here, and I want you to put in Les Brown speaking in the Georgia Dome. I want you to see that video and watch it 90 days straight. Les Brown speaking in the Georgia Dome. It's entitled, It's Not Over Till You Win. And the reason I want you to see that, in pursuit of my dream, life happens. You know, Forrest Gump was right, that life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Things happen to me, and I was in my office in Penobscot Building, 21st floor in Detroit, Michigan, sleeping on the floor, bathing in the sink down the hall, hiding in the closet when the janitorial staff came in the middle of the night to clean the office. How many have ever gone through some tough times? Raise your hands, please. Robert Schuller was right, that tough times never last, but tough people do. Had to tough it out. I was going out talking to people about their dream, and I was sleeping on the floor of my office. And people say, well, you fake it till you make it. No, no, no. I wasn't faking it. In my mind, I was living out of my imagination. Einstein said the imagination is a preview of what's to come. I'm encouraging you to hold the vision tenaciously, regardless of what you're going through, regardless of the challenges and setbacks that you're experiencing. I want you to write this affirmation down, because you're going to go through some tough times. Think it not strange that you'll face the fiery furnaces of this world. You will, not you might. You will have tribulations. Write this down. No matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. That's what I had to affirm. No matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, I'm going to make it. I had to affirm myself every day with tears coming down my face, ducking creditors, not knowing how I was going to build my business. It was a challenging time. And I had to say that to myself over and over again. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto you. And as you affirm that, you begin to call that an experience for yourself. How many of you said to yourself, I can do more? Raise your hands, please. Dr. Howard Thurman, who was a mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I admire him, brilliant man. He said, after I was diagnosed with prostate cancer and my PSA was 2,400. That stands for prostate-specific antigen. Cancer metastasized to 7 areas of my body, and I started smiling when the oncologist said that. He said, "Why are you smiling?" I said, 7 is my lucky number. That's how I was born February 17th. My phone number is 702. My social security number is 267. My address is 27377 is my lucky number. Joshua marched around the walls of Jericho 7 times. Naaman dipped himself in the river Jordan 7 times. Then I tell you, 7 is my lucky number. That cancer's getting the hell beat out of it right now. It's been 21 years, and I'm still here.